Emotional content is filmed on Whadjuk Noongar land. This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Come for the stories, stay for the connection. I'm your host, Amy Jane Brand, and this is your weekly dose of emotional content. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Emotional Content. I hope you're all having a great start to your week. And if you're not, well, this episode should give you a little bit of entertainment to get things started. I know how much you all love my story times, so today's episode will not disappoint. But before I get into today's story, I wanted to do a little bit of a catch up because many of you have been asking me to go into more detail about how a certain story, a certain event, a certain episode all ended. So I wanted to clarify a few things and also give you an update because there has been an update on the situation. So if you listened to the episode that was about a certain girl trying to ruin my life after I ended things with my ex, it was his next girlfriend. There's a 2-part episode about it. If you haven't listened to it and you need some solid entertainment or you want to know why I vanished from the internet for 2 years, then please feel free to go and catch up with those episodes. However, if you have listened to it, I have some things to update you on. So like I mentioned in the episode, once the Chainsmokers team basically said that this girl needs to go and my ex was instructed to end things with her, then she decided to continue putting all of her energy into me, blamed me publicly as to why they broke up, blah, blah, blah. She continued with that narrative. Eventually, this stuff did all fizzle out. It was a case of just ignoring it, moving on, getting on with my life. And of course, I also fizzled off the internet as well. So it wasn't like I was continuing to post and carry on with my life publicly. I went and healed myself behind closed doors. So the way that the episode ended abruptly was pretty much exactly that. I just ducked out of my job online. And if I'm not posting, I wasn't giving her much to be able to, use as ammunition towards me. If I wasn't seen posting online, it couldn't be copied. It couldn't be replied to. I wasn't doing Q&As anymore. I just wasn't opening myself up to giving that girl the possibility to attack me. Now, if you listen to those 2 episodes, you would have noticed how I worded things very carefully. I did a full disclaimer at the beginning. I basically covered myself really well. I obviously did that with intention. I actually spoke to a lawyer prior to going live with those 2 episodes and basically safeguarded myself. So I minimized the risk of having any legal issues come forward from that. To my surprise, I didn't receive any fake legal letters again from either parties. However, in saying that, I did receive something from one of them. And this was actually submitted through my website as like a story submission. This was something I didn't know whether I was going to bring up on the podcast or not, but due to the amount of people asking for an update on things and wanting to know exactly how things ended, I thought I might as well talk about it. Anyway, I ended up receiving this not very long after these episodes went live. So it was very obvious to me that the girl that was involved in it had listened to both episodes and she was still keeping a strong eye on me. The submission was a big bunch of bullshit. I don't believe it at all. I'm sure she's going to listen to this as well. She's probably listening to every single episode, let's be honest. It basically pinned all of the blame onto my ex, saying that all of it was his idea. He was behind all of the fake accounts. She was manipulated in the entire situation. And all of this was apparently coming from one of her best friends. So she made it look like her best friend had written into me to say that I need to contact her, speak to her about it, hear her side because I've got everything wrong. And it went into insane detail about every single thing. It wasn't an email that a best friend would ever send on someone's behalf. It was bullshit. It's just baffling to me that this person would think I'm gullible enough to believe it. Honestly, I would have respected this woman so much more if she just emailed me and said, I'm so sorry for my poor behavior. I am so sorry about all of that. I wasn't in my right mind and I take full responsibility for it. I know what role my ex played in all of that. As I said, I'm not stupid. I know what happened. I can see it for what it is. And yes, he did play a big role in it, 100%. A girl doesn't get that obsessed over another woman just for no reason. That was seeds that were planted, and he 100% had his foot in the door with that. However, majority of the stuff that came after that, it was her doing. He just turned a blind eye and let it happen because he wanted me to suffer. That's what happened. No one's going to change my mind about the situation. I have enough proof to know. But yeah, it was a really sad attempt at basically demanding me to speak to her again, which is what happened. If you've listened to the episode, she wanted to speak to me and tried to get my phone number. Like, I'm never going to speak to you, babe. If you're listening to this, it's not going to happen. Move on. Let it fucking go. Unfortunately, my ex has come up in a lot of episodes lately, which you guys might have noticed. It's not because I want to, but because so much trauma and growth came from that relationship. It was almost 6 years of my life. So yeah, I don't love it. I really don't love it, but that's where a lot of stuff happened for me. So I guess that's why it's coming up frequently at the moment with the subjects that we're talking about. I do reference back to that relationship a lot because it was one of the longest and most difficult relationships that I've been in. Okay, so now you are better updated on that situation. I hope it gave you guys some clarity. I hope it gives you a little bit more understanding. And obviously now you know the tea on what exactly happened after going live with those episodes. So let's get into today's episode because this is a wild story as well. So as you can imagine, I, like many influencers, have had my identity used many, many times on the internet. Especially when I was posting half-naked photos of myself, I had a particular influx of that happening. From many fake Facebooks to a ton of fake Instagram accounts. It was actually the main reason why I ended up getting verified by Instagram was because of how many fake ones there were. I got verified back in 2017. And not saying that I'm like a well-known person. If you're posting half-naked photos or thirst traps all the time, people want to reuse your pics because then they sell porn from that. So this is not me being like, oh, I'm so well-known. Anybody that's probably on OnlyFans, you would get your image used all the time. It's just a thing. So because of that, I was only ever keeping my eye out on those platforms. I wasn't really focusing on anywhere else. It was always Facebook or Instagram. Those were the areas that I kept my attention on. So taking you back to when I was around 23, I'm living on the east coast of Australia. I'm working on my visa for LA, which I've spoken in depth about, and I'm still dating one of my ex-boyfriends at the time. He was the DJ that I was dating. At this point, I'm openly posting every single thing about my life. I have no real awareness or care that that could be quite dangerous at the time. I was just doing what everyone else was doing and posting, living my life, not really thinking too far into that, which was very, very silly. I'm also growing a following that was gaining very quickly. The good old days of Instagram where your following would grow very, very fast. Things were being posted in chronological order and the algorithm was just basically showing you what you were following at a time. Think about it. I'm posting whatever I want, when I want, in real time, details about my family, my friends, just living my life online. And because of that Instagram growth, it was reaching a very wide audience. I was also fairly active on Twitter at the time. I'm not calling it X because I'm just not calling it X. I think it's lame. I preferred Twitter and I was using it when it was called Twitter more. So we're going to call it Twitter for this episode just to make things easier. I wasn't exactly invested in Twitter too much. Obviously, it was there. It was a great place to grow a broader audience internationally. Like it was always huge in America. So it never really popped off in Australia at that time. So I only ever really went on there to post a few things, have a scroll and then get back off. I didn't spend too much of my energy on there, but just enough to still grow what I thought at the time was a fairly decent following. So Twitter was really good for building that overseas awareness. It was really good for reshares and I guess it was great for unfiltered content, porn, and watching celebrities post rogue things. It was great for that. And I had gained around 20,000 followers at the time on there, which for me, not posting much or really putting too much effort into it, felt like a really good number. Like I was stoked. I thought I was killing it. At this time on Twitter, I didn't have a blue tick, I wasn't verified, and I hadn't really tried to get one on there. I didn't care too much for it. As much as I wish I had, I didn't care for it at the time. So one morning, I wake up to my alarm, I lay in bed, and I'm scrolling across my social media. Yes, I know how bad that is. Yes, I still tend to do it now. I usually always check Instagram first. I probably checked Facebook back then as well. And I had a look at Twitter. There was a notification that had popped up overnight that really caught my eye. It was a girl posting and she said, "Who is the real Amy Jane Brand? Because I can't tell." And I was like, what the fuck is that about? What do you mean the real Amy Jane Brand? Like, what, there's another Amy Jane Brand on Twitter? What's going on here? And my initial thought was, oh, somebody's made a fake account and they're just reposting some of my stuff, like whatever. Naturally, I clicked the other account to see what was going on. The account's name was something along the lines of Amy Jane Brand, but with 2 Ds at the end. I tried looking for screenshots of this, but I couldn't find it. From memory, it was extremely similar to mine. So because I didn't spend much time on the app, ever looking into possibly being catfished on there, it never came up. I was never really searching my own name into Twitter the same way that I would with Instagram or Facebook to kind of check through there. I just was not checking on Twitter. So this would have come up really easily had I have looked into it because they were using my name. They didn't put any numbers, nothing. They were straight up trying to impersonate me. Once I got onto their profile, clicking through and scrolling, I realized just how severe this catfishing was. This was the most intricate, intense, detailed work I had ever seen somebody do on a catfishing project. They had 100% taken my life and repurposed it as their own. They had become better at posting content than me. They were more active at replying to people. They were more consistent at posting. They were doing it morning, lunchtime, evening. It was absolutely insane. I was so taken aback by the whole thing and scared. Like I felt so scared looking through this because it was all me. And they did a really solid job at pretending to speak the same way as me, the way I would talk, as an Australian, just with how I would type things, because obviously it wasn't video. Basically, this person had studied me for God knows how long, which was terrifying. Honestly, it was terrifying. This account was not only just repurposing all of my content, they also had 150,000 followers. They had been doing this for over a year consistently. They got all of my content from Tumblr, from my personal Facebook, tagged with friends. They were reposting my friends. On top of that, the worst part of all of it was the fact that they were posting about missing my dad, who, if you don't know, passed away when I was younger. So they were pretending to miss my dad and reposting photos of me with him. Yeah, it was fucked up. I was so taken aback by the whole thing. It wasn't normal. Like, it was really scary. The other big issue was the fact that I was posting in real time on my own socials, and this person was just reposting at the same time, making everything look so cohesive. Like if somebody was thinking, oh, I follow her on Instagram, there's 2 accounts here. Oh, the smaller one must be the fake one. Because I wasn't posting in real time on my Twitter. I wasn't posting the same stuff all over my social platforms at the same time. It was usually always just Facebook or Instagram, right? And this person was literally watching my every single move. They posted about my pets. They posted family photos, my birthday, the presents I received on my birthday. We're talking real stalker shit. This wasn't playing small. This person was dead ass pretending to be me 100%. And they did a fucking good job of it, I will say. Not only were they taking my entire life and pretending to be me, but they were also receiving gifts from fans. They had an Amazon wish list that people were purchasing from. Guys, they were literally raking it in. This person was raking it in with gifts and reposting them saying thank you. I went onto their Amazon wish list, shopfront, whatever the fuck you call it, and they had all kinds of stuff. Cameras, electrics, beauty stuff. When I found out who it was afterwards, some of the stuff on there really didn't align with them, but they put it in there to be smart enough to come across like it was me. It was honestly wild. And after taking a minute to really look into this person, whoever the fuck they were, I decided to quickly write back and I said, no, I am the real person, like it's me. And then the person pretending to be me on Amy Jane Brand with 2Ds wrote back to me to be like, I'm the one with the bigger following. I think you're the fake here. So they literally tweeted me. They started talking to me, telling me that I am the fake. And eventually they ended up blocking me. It was fucking diabolical. It ended up turning into this war back and forth with their followers, my followers, which wasn't many sticking up for me. I actually ended up losing followers over it who believed that I was the fake one the entire time. People were literally laughing at me, calling me a catfish. I then had people reporting my account. So I was receiving warnings that I was going to lose my account on Twitter. It was so stressful. I was really stressed about it at the time. Not so much losing the Twitter account because I didn't care too much about that. It was the fact that somebody is pretending to be me and they're the ones not getting in trouble. And I'm literally getting stalked online. Like, keep in mind, guys, this was ages ago. Like, this was fucking over 10 years ago. So it was a very different landscape back then with social media. This was all fairly like new still. It wasn't a really well-known thing that everybody was getting catfished all the time. Like, it was happening, but it wasn't something that I basically knew how to deal with. Like, I didn't really know who to go to, what to do. It was a pretty bizarre situation and I didn't know anyone else that had had it happen to this extent. I also didn't know what country they were in. I thought that they were in Australia because they were posting at the same times that I were. Naturally, I wouldn't think that it was somebody overseas, which made it even more terrifying. If this person wants to be me so badly and they're stalking my every move and I'm posting in real time, where the fuck are they? Who are they? Is it even a woman or is it a man? Like, what the fuck is going on here? How old are they? Is it just like a young girl wanting to pretend to be, you know, someone they look up to potentially? If it's that, totally different situation. But if it's some creepy fucking guy called Greg sitting behind a fucking computer screen, heavy breathing at the computer, what the fuck? I was spiraling. This would have taken a lot of their time up each day. Do they even have a job? Like, are they doing this full time? What else are they doing with my image? There was a lot of things spiraling through my head at the time, and rightly so. So I was losing followers quite drastically because people were believing it, they were seeing it, the conversations were popping up. So I started getting my friends to report this account as well. I did everything that I could at the time and I contacted Twitter. I don't know if it's still the same now being X, but Twitter back then took like 7 business days to get back to you if you wanted to speak to an actual person. So I knew that it was going to take a little while to get any sort of help on that end. So then I get this message that I'm tagged in to say that whoever is the real Amy Jane Brand can simply write on a piece of paper with their handle, hold it up next to their face and take a selfie, right? And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I think of this? That proves it immediately. There's no way that this person can do that, but I absolutely can. So I was like, sure thing, no worries, straight away. And I did it. Obviously, this other account was not able to do that. They couldn't supply it. So it started raising some red flags for everybody else. My following stopped dropping. And I think people were really questioning what was going on there. I actually tried to look for the photo of me doing that, but I couldn't find it anywhere. However, I will keep trying to look for that photo because that would be hilarious if I could post it. You know, this whole thing really gets me thinking about what it's like today with AI. It's something that I think is very helpful for work, but when it gets into the wrong people's hands, that's when it tends to become a negative thing. People can use it as a tool for creating all kinds of havoc. Going back to when I was getting stalked by that other girl, she was creating fake conversations that I was apparently having. Like, that was being generated online on a website. I don't know how. And that sent people into a frenzy. They believed it. Like, people weren't believing me. It looked real. It didn't matter what I said. People ate that shit up. So I can't imagine how bad this situation could have gotten for me me if AI was big back then. And I feel like the catfishing and identity theft and all that type of stuff is about to get really bad, because they easily could have just generated a photo of me holding up the piece of paper on their end too. We are probably going to run into some serious issues when it comes to AI, stealing people's identities, stalking. It's a tool that can be used in a very negative way, and it freaks me the fuck out. So about a week into this whole ordeal, I suddenly get a DM from a girl. She was sounding very stressed out, sending me all kinds of questions, sounding very worried about the whole situation, and kind of wanted to get to the bottom of who I actually was, which was quite scary. Now, for this episode, I'm going to refer to this girl as Jenna, because I'm not going to reveal her actual name in the situation, and you'll understand why. But Jenna was around 19, 20 years old at the time. I think she was about to turn 20. After a lot of back and forth and confusion in the situation, Jenna had revealed to me that she had been in love with this fake version of me for just over a year, and they had been speaking for that time. So they had been talking intimately, sending nudes to each other, and making future plans together. This is where I realized that this situation wasn't just pretending to be me online. It was something far more serious than that. And this person behind the account, my gut feeling immediately was, this has to be a man. This person behind the fake account had pretended that I was a lesbian. Back then, I had posted that I was bisexual. At the time, when I was younger, I definitely identified with being bisexual. And I think I had voiced that at some point in one of my magazine interviews or something. I think I have previously mentioned that I have been with women before. However, I don't identify with that anymore. I definitely feel like I'm straight. But back then, I think they potentially listened to old interviews. So that was something that they potentially leveraged at the time, which is really fucking scary. The other interesting fact was that Jenna was in the UK. And I had spoken many times about being born in the UK. So me being in the UK would make a lot of sense, right? Yeah, this person behind the account was extremely clever. And Jenna had believed that she was in a full-blown relationship with me. She told me that I would never get on the phone to her, like the fake version of me, would never get on the phone to her, but it was always text messages. And I was also apparently joining in on sexting, phone sex, whatever you want to call it, sending intimate videos of myself, which wasn't actually me, without my face in it. It was very well thought out. Jenna seemed like a really innocent girl that had been severely manipulated, and I don't blame her for not really knowing the difference at the time, because it was still very new, all of this stuff, and the extent that this person went to was insane. So the catfish was not only just stealing my selfies, they were also filming point of view porn on porn sites of girls masturbating without any identifying parts in the video like their face or hair, just close-ups of what they were doing, and sending it to Jenna. This was something that someone had planned front to back. It was very well executed, and it was really scary. At the time, when I realized that there was a girl falling victim to this catfish, honestly, I felt sick. I never thought that I would be in a position where my identity was being used to lure young girls in. It's really sickening to think about, and it hit me like a bus at how dangerous this whole situation had actually become, and I was completely fucking unaware that this was going on behind closed doors. I had no idea, and it was happening right under my nose. At the time, it seemed really likely to me that this person had other victims as well, and when I think back to it, I wasn't really posting my boyfriend that much either. So if they ever referenced to my Instagram, when they were talking to people, it would have been fairly believable because they were reposting the same content at the same time. Really, with the racy nature of my content and the fact that I was just posting whatever I wanted at the time, I was the perfect victim for the situation. Unfortunately, this story gets a lot darker. The next thing that Jenna told me was shocking, and it also convinced me that this was 1000% the man that I thought it was. behind the account. I never knew exactly what dude it was, but I knew that this was the work of some creepy guy. This wasn't some woman pretending to be me. This was straight up going to be the work of a man. After speaking to Jenna for a while back and forth, she revealed to me that this Catfish account tried meeting up with her multiple times. And there was a point where she actually went to try and meet up with them. This is where I realised that the situation was much darker than I had initially thought. So the Catfish account was saying that they were from North London, which creepily enough, I'm from the north of London as well. And she is from the south. So the Catfish suggested meeting up in London. And that is exactly what they did. One day, Jenna had packed up her bag for an overnight stay. They were planning on going to a hotel together, and she thought that she was meeting up with me in London. By the time that she actually got to London, she realised that the Catfish was late. She kept messaging, trying to find out where they were, and they weren't showing up. So she was sitting around the train station, confused, not sure what to do with herself. And at the time, she had noticed that there was a man staring at her. He was quite far away at the time, but his staring made it extremely obvious that he was looking directly at her. It was a man that looked like he was in his 50s, and he looked very dirty, is what she said. He dressed like he was basically homeless. She couldn't figure out why he was staring at her, and she tried to move a couple of times, and he would get up and move to make sure that he could still have her in his eyesight. At this point, Jenna decided to go and get herself some water while she still thought she was waiting for me. Once she had walked out with her water bottle and was standing there having a drink, this man then came out of nowhere and tried to push her towards the public toilets that were just next door. She then screamed, pushed him off of her, and ran to a group of people nearby, completely shaken up, and he also left very quickly. At the time, she didn't put two and two together that that was potentially the person that she was supposed to be meeting up with because it seemed so far-fetched. But the more that she thought about it, the more she realised that this person, the Catfish, was always refusing to get on the phone or be on any sort of video. Once she got home, she then started making demands that she wanted the Catfish to prove that they were real. The Catfish was then pretending to be outraged that a man put his hands on her and was trying to be really sympathetic about the situation, whilst ignoring Jenna's requests to prove their full identity, which they obviously weren't able to fucking do because it was not them. So at this point, it was a couple of months later after Jenna had fully stopped talking to this person because they recognised that it was a catfish. She had spent a while trying to report the account to Twitter to tell them that it wasn't the real person, and she ultimately just ended up giving up on the situation. However, she was keeping an eye on the account to see what was happening and saw that my whole situation popped up. This was real clarity for her, but for me, I felt like I needed to do more. This was someone that was using my identity for criminal offences, preying on young women. And what if this wasn't the first time? It's so easy for people to have the wool pulled over their eyes. And this girl was young, innocent. She didn't know any better. And she honestly thought that she was speaking to me, which is just really, really sad and scary. So at this point, I advised that Jenna go to the police. It had been a little while since it happened, but I really felt like she needed to go to the police. I also spoke to the police here in Australia. I told them the whole situation and they said she needs to report it. I told Jenna to give all of my details to the cops as well, so they were able to call me in the situation, seeing as it was my identity being used. During this time, I also had to send my passport off to Twitter to get them to actually give me my account back, and I also explained to them the situation. So I was patiently waiting for this account to be taken down and Twitter to take some action on it as well. I was feeling quite hopeful that this motherfucker would get taken down at this point. A few weeks later, I ended up getting a phone call from the police in the UK, and they took a statement of the situation. At the time, they weren't able to tell me much, but they had tracked down this person through their IP address and something was actually going to be done about it. So I was really hopeful that there was going to be some sort of justice for the situation and a full investigation. I was just praying that I wasn't going to get hit with the news that someone had been severely hurt, badly injured, sexually assaulted, under the impersonation of my identity. This was one morning waking up, having absolutely no idea that my identity was being used for anything else, to now being in potentially a full-blown criminal situation thanks to the internet and social media. Like, it was a real whirlwind. It was seriously a big eye-opener. And after this, it made me a lot wiser when it came to what I was willing to post about my private life online. At the time, I felt like this was a real grey area for police. I really had to go into a lot of detail and explain to them multiple times what was going on, what they were doing. It was not something that everyone was well versed on. By this stage, the Catfish's account got taken down. So that was one really big win. I was super happy about that because they had obviously been working at this account for a long time. They'd been posting for over a year. This was all of their hard work down the toilet. I couldn't find any other social platforms that they had been working on. So this was a big win. I also ended up getting verified by Twitter at that point too. So that situation could be avoided in the future. They took it really seriously in the end and did exactly what they should have done, which was great. But I did still really want to see some justice for whatever this sick fuck was doing. Conversations were still happening between myself and Jenna, and I have to admit she was hitting me up quite a lot. It was quite frequent. And I was giving her the time of day, one, because she was a victim of something really messed up with my face on it, and two, I just wanted to be really supportive for her at the time. She was really attached to the idea of being with that person that he created with my face. And eventually she propositioned me. So yeah, she kind of tried to make a move. You know, it's a huge compliment, like bless her. I was very kind about it. Obviously, I also had a boyfriend at the time. I wasn't interested in dating women then. So yeah, it was very awkward after that. I don't blame her for feeling awkward. Obviously, the conversation between her and I faded out very quickly once that happened. In the end, unfortunately, I never got a name as to who this man was, but I was told by police a few details, even though they didn't share much with me, which was really fucking annoying. Police mentioned to me that they had seized all of his devices, which is great because that meant that they were going to be looking through them. And at the time, he was currently being charged in relation to other ongoing cases that they already had against him. So he was already in the system. So that was another slap in the face. Like, this person was already dangerous. I tried following up with the police a couple of times, but because it wasn't technically a case against me and I wasn't the direct victim of the attempted assault, they couldn't legally disclose any further details. And Jenna wasn't really speaking to me anymore, so it kind of all went cold. His account disappeared, Twitter verified me, Jenna and I stopped talking, and life kind of just moved on. But it did always leave me with this weird, unsettled feeling in my stomach, knowing that a complete stranger obsessed over my life like that and used my identity to prey on women and then just vanished back into the system with no closure was something that stuck with me for a really long time. But in the end, what I did get was a whole lot fucking wiser when it comes to what I post online and not posting in real time. I really try to avoid posting in real time now, unless a brand really needs me to because of a job, then, you know, that's something that I would have to do. Otherwise, I don't feel like it's a good idea to be posting in real time. So it's something that I 100% have always avoided since then. And as much as I love social media and the positivity that it can spread, there's also the dark sides of it as well that we all so often forget. A couple of years after this, I actually had a guy hit me up and say that he had been talking to me for 6 months through Tinder. He went to meet up with me and it didn't happen. He had been ghosted. He felt like a real idiot at the time and decided to send me a DM asking if it was really me that he had been speaking to. And that was over in Canada. He was going to college over there and somebody was using my identity. So this has probably happened so many different times. I used to get sent so many dating profiles with my face on it. I've never used a dating app before. So yeah, if you have ever spoken to me on a dating app, it was not me and I apologize. I hope that justice was served to that guy. I wish I could have found out more about it. The police just stonewalled me on the whole thing and stopped getting back to me when I was reaching out. So there was nothing more I could really do. So that was my crazy catfish story. If you have one of your own, I would absolutely love to hear it. You know where you can hit me up in the submissions page of my website. Send me your story. I would love to hear it and I would love to unpack it on the podcast. That is it from me. I love you guys so much. I hope you have an incredible week. Stay safe and I'll see you in next week's episode. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a share. You never know who might need a little emotional content in their life. For daily feel-good posts, follow @_emotional content on Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Your support means the absolute world to me.